Hey everybody, Steve Welty, CEO of Good Life Property Management, and I am Rent.
Hey everyone, Ryan Prazen, Good Life Property Management as well on the real estate and investment side.
So selling your house, trending topic right now. In fact, churn of our customers is up from 10% to about 13%, and most of that is due to people selling. So we're gonna talk about selling in today's market. Rents are flat across most areas, but it does depend on the local market. Like if you're in the coastal areas, you're seeing higher rents. If you're kind of in the inland areas, we're seeing lower rents. And it just goes back to real estate is a local, game. On the rental side, if you have a single family home, that is like the creme de la creme of the rental property. People need them. A lot of them are going to Airbnbs, the 3-bedroom, 2-bath house. So those are appreciating in rental value still and are in very high demand. Also, if you have a property that is fixed up and you've remodeled it in the last 10 years, you're also going to see increasing rents. So that has softened rents a bit. So if you have a single family home or a condo that has been recently remodeled and it's in good condition, you're going to see increasing rents. So our days on market has been going down over the last 3 months, down to 13 days on average. And I think that's not a testament of a hotter market. The market's actually fairly soft. It's a testament to a lot of the strategies we're doing at Good Life and our leasing team has been executing with faster showing, self-service lock boxes, quicker turn times, better property condition, recommendations to owners, and just better listings. What's the market doing right now? We're in 3 main areas: Riverside, San Diego, and Orange County. So San Diego, I went over, rents are about flat. Orange County rents are stronger. And, they're in the 3 to 5% range. And vacancy is lower, whereas in San Diego, vacancy is higher. So Orange County is a very hot market for rental property. Riverside is even softer than San Diego. We're seeing prices go down more substantially and vacancy times are up. It was a much hotter market around the COVID time in Riverside, but we're seeing a lot less demand. I think people are more going to the coastal areas, and a lot of the work from home stuff, stopped. And so we're seeing some changes in that kind of like demand. But those are kind of the stories of the 3 markets currently.
We are seeing movement, but it's slower than it was before. So prices basically peaked 2 years ago. So if you came to me today and said, when's the best time to sell? When are you trying to time the market? I would tell you 2 years ago. Coastal properties in some local markets are seeing a little bit of appreciation, but there's other markets that are seeing a little bit of depreciation all throughout San Diego. So it's really hyper localized. You're seeing a tale of 2 asset classes too. You've got single family homes and then you've got condos. Some of the older condos, they're having some issues with budgets due to essentially new regulation. So they've had to come in and do a bunch of inspections. They're seeing increased costs. The cost of labor and materials are going up. Their budgets are getting strained and they're putting special assessments, raising dues. So we have a lot of calls from owners with that same situation because rents aren't necessarily moving in those either, but their expenses are going up. And when they're getting squeezed on the cash flow, it might be a consideration for them to potentially sell 1031 exchange into a different asset class. It's definitely taking longer to sell, but it's not unusual. It's unusual if you look at the last 5 years, right? So you're not putting your property on the market normally right now and seeing it just fly off in 1 to 2 weeks. So be prepared to maybe be on the market for 30 to 60 days. If you're going to choose aspirational pricing, you might sit on the market longer as you do some price reductions until you find what the market's going to bear for your property. Yeah, in today's market, it hasn't changed over the past decade. Transaction costs in general, in total, so you're talking commissions, closing costs, escrow, title, proration for property taxes, insurance, all that good stuff, has generally been somewhere between 6 and 7% total transaction costs. But what we get lots of questions on now is the buyer's agent commission. So that has changed in the recent years and how it's actually presented. Before, the listing agent took both of those and it was stationary, right? It didn't move. Now every single offer that comes in, the buyer's agent puts the commission into the actual purchase offer as a negotiating point. Has it changed what the commissions are? Not really. In some cases, you're seeing agents now ask for 3% right off the bat, especially in lower priced properties. But it is a negotiable point. But overall, that's what to expect in the closing. What we try to focus on is obviously making the asset as presentable as possible, doing those repairs, Steve mentioned them earlier, and making the property look as best, because the buyers that are out there are really discerning. They're going to be looking at that, they're going to be running their numbers, they're going to be calculating everything to a T. For some owners that in the past lived in their property as their primary residence and have transitioned it into a rental or investment property, one thing that's you really want to pay attention to is your tax consequences. Essentially what happens is, in order to avoid capital gains taxes, you have to have lived in the property for at least 2 of the past 5 years, in any order. It's down to the actual day on that. So if you converted it, let's say you lived there for 5 years, you converted it into a rental property, you moved somewhere, relocated, whatever it happens to be, and now that property is a rental, you can only qualify for capital gains exclusion now if you sell that property within 3 years of the date that you first marketed the property for rent. So if you put it on Zillow as a rental property, that's the date. You've got 3 years that you actually have to close escrow to qualify for the capital gains exclusion. A day after that, if you sell that property, you could be liable for capital gains, which can, at minimum, is probably about 30% of your capital gain. There's limits for those. So if you're single filing, it's up to $250,000 in capital gains. If you're married filing jointly, it's up to $500,000. When you look at where rates are right now, we're above 6.5% right now. We're probably about to hit the highest interest rate that we've seen in the past 12 months. And that is of concern. Again, buyers are discerning. They're looking at their principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. And they're also looking at costs of renovation and repairs that need to be done at the property, if there are any. All those come into consideration. So when you see those interest rates get elevated, you're going to see buyers kind of take a step back. It definitely gets more difficult. You're going to see buyers step back, or they're going to try to negotiate price and terms a little bit better as those interest rates go up, or try to get either concessions for a mortgage rate buy down.
Renting, what does it actually look like? Most owners are very good at computing what is the mortgage payment and then what is the rent, and then they take that amount and they say, okay, this is what I'm going to be making, this is my cash flow. But that is not a true cash flow calculation. We have to look at each line item of the expenses. I'll go over kind of the broad categories. So there is the mortgage payment, and then there's also the taxes and insurance. Most people, they call it PITI, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So most people roll their taxes and insurance into their mortgage payment. And so that might be already in there, but if it's not, make sure you calculate that into the equation as well. And then the next biggest expense is going to be maintenance. It's generally between 5% to like 30% a year of your rent, depending on the age of the building. If it's a newer building, it might be 5%. If it's like a 50-year-old house that hasn't been maintained very well, it could be up to 30%. So depending on your tax bracket, now you're doing a lot better than, even after just adding appreciation. So there's appreciation, there's cash flow, there's depreciation, and there's also this little hidden gem that most people don't realize, amortization. So amortization, when you rent it out especially, the tenant's paying down your mortgage. So every month you owe the bank less. So if you look at your mortgage statement, you're gonna have, let's say it's a $1,000 mortgage payment, which is ridiculous, but just for easy numbers. It's gonna say $700 is going to interest and $300 is going towards principal. So that $300 really is part of the cash flow equation. Even though you don't see the cash in real time, it is paying down the debt and increasing your equity and increasing the value of the property. So those are a little bit of why the numbers are very attractive for Southern California real estate that's in good areas and that is managed well and doesn't become a drain on your time and personal energy. Because over time, appreciation, depreciation, amortization, those three really help build wealth for lots of our clients here in Southern California. So there's 4 main ways real estate pays, and the first is cash flow. We talked about that. A lot of times our clients are negative cash flow, and as long as it's manageable, it's okay. Because I look at it like almost like a 401k, like you're putting money into a long-term asset that's gonna pay 10x in 3 other ways that I'm gonna go over. The first is appreciation. So historically, it's about 6% on average per year. But let's say your house is $1 million. Here's the cool thing. You probably only put down 20%. So you put down $200,000, let's say, when you bought it. The bank gave you a loan for $800,000. So you're gonna earn that 6% appreciation on the whole value of the property, even including the part that you didn't actually put the money in. So you get a lot of leverage, first off, with appreciation there by using debt. And then if you just take an easy round number like $1 million, and let's say appreciation is 6%, that's gonna be $60,000 that you earn this year. Now, you may not have gotten in your pocket, and the market could go down next year, but if you're planning on, we always recommend a long-term horizon for renting property, like not just being like, oh, I'm gonna rent it for 3 years, see if I can capture like an additional 5 points of appreciation or something. This is a long-term play. Then that's probably the biggest driver of results for our clients and net worth growth is that appreciation, which you can count on historically being 6%. All right, now because of where rents are at and where mortgage interest rates are at, rather, we got to be truthful that renting is not going to make sense for everybody, right? If you bought in 2024, 2025, and you call our office, we unfortunately usually have to give you some rough news, like, hey, the rent you're going to get compared to your expenses is just such a wide gap. Like, you don't want to be negative $1,800 a month, right, on your rental property. Now, if you have a reason that you want to hold it, like, hey, you're going to live in it and you just need to rent it for 2 years, okay, that could make sense. But there's this really sweet spot of people that bought a property prior to 2022, probably at the earliest, and then back, all the way through 2012 or even beyond that. These people have a lot of times low mortgage rates in the 2s, 3s, or 4s. They had rents that have appreciated significantly. So rents as of today in San Diego, the average rent in our portfolio is around $3,300. And in Orange County, it's closer to $4,000. And so these people have mortgage rates. Now check this out, it's so cool. It's locked in at 3-4%, but it's such an asset to have that getting rid of that and selling it, even to buy another property, and we'll get into that a little bit, Ryan, I'm sure. It's like, it should really be thought through well, because you're not going to have this opportunity to turn a house into a rental property at these attractive rates and these attractive spreads when you talk about the rent you can make versus your expenses. So a very common fear, especially of first-time landlords, is like, what if the tenant destroys my place? So we went into the numbers. We manage over 1,900 properties. We pulled up the data. How many times did the damage to the property exceed the security deposit? And it's below 1%. In fact, like well below 1%, closer to 0%. And so I can't speak to self-managed properties or properties with other management companies, but at least our clients are very rarely experiencing this like, oh, the tenant damaged my house scenario. So a second very common fear is, what if my place just sits empty and doesn't rent? As long as it is priced appropriately, and we always give clients a range of about 10%, as long as we're willing to be flexible within that range, we're going to get it rented in a couple weeks. Right now, our average days on market, which is from the time we list it to the time we have a signed lease, is 13 days. But when you combine that, on average, let's say about 30 days potentially vacant, it's not going to exceed that in the majority of cases, unless we're holding out for some price point that must be attained. Other than that, if we can price it appropriately, we're going to make sure it's marketed well, shown well, and it's not going to be one of these situations where it just sits vacant long term. We only get paid once the property is rented. So we have a financial incentive to, keep vacancy days as low as possible. All right, the third common fear is California laws. They're crazy. Why would I'm not gonna rent a property in California. Hey, I'm not here to talk you into it, and they are scary. However, there's a lot of unnecessary fear about rent control for our clients or people that own a house or a condo, because most rent control laws actually don't apply to people that rent houses or condos. Yes, that's true. There's no rent caps, usually no just cause eviction laws for houses and condos, and that's because of a law called Costa-Hawkins that has been tried to been repealed twice. It's basically a law that says you cannot pass rent control on single family homes. And so the scary rent control doesn't apply to most people. You have to navigate it. Hopefully you have a good property manager who navigates it for you, and you can just check the updates or whatever and stay as in tune to it as you want. But the scary laws, let your manager worry about that, and then just let your rental prices go up over time while your mortgage stays fixed.
It's going to depend. It's going to depend for each and every particular owner when that asset is right for them to sell. It's a lot of things come into play, and a lot of times it has to do with personal situations. You see this all the time: death, divorce, relocation of job, whatever it happens to be. Those are going to be always going to be primary drivers. The ones that hold on to their properties for extended period of time, 10, 20, 30 years or longer, more so it's going to be a tax play and or just a financial play. Let's say they've got a bucket list trip that they've always wanted to take and they just want to cash this out. Those things do come into play as well. So it's gonna depend for everybody. You just have to look and decide what's best for you. We get that, I wouldn't say often, but throughout the year, we always see these types of sale where an owner has owned the property. They've had a great tenant in the property that's been there for quite some time, and those tenants come to a time where they want to become owners, and they love the house, they love the location, they love the school for their kids, whatever it happens to be, and they want to purchase. And we always start there. Every time we get these requests from our owners, hey, we're thinking about selling. Let's always start and throw the idea out to the tenant and see if they're able and willing to potentially purchase it, because that could be your best buyer right there. If not, then we do what we do and we go to market with it.
We could talk about owners who, when it starts to disrupt your life, like your property, like it has a backup and then it has a leak and then your daughter's having problems at school, you know what I mean? And then not in the short term, I wouldn't say knee jerk sell your property because you have a bad week, but if the property just is this drag on your life, that's a really good reason to sell.
Too, it's always interesting when those things and repairs come up that were unexpected and they've got slim margins. How does that force people to rethink, whether or not they want to hold on to this asset or whether or not they want to be in that particular type of investment?
Yeah.
Versus anything else. And I don't know too if there's always this talk I have with the property management team, especially around renewal time. Do we try to increase the rents and by how much? How much is too much? If this tenant leaves, how much is that going to cost me? And
looking at the market, it's kind of flat on the sales side, right? And on the rental side in San Diego, it's going up in Orange County. But if you're saying, hey, I'm going to sell for sure in the next 2-3 years, and you have a vacancy coming up, that might be a good reason to look harder at selling now versus when the market was really hot, you could try to squeak out another 6%, or oh, maybe it'll go up another $100,000 this year. And so I don't know. I think what it comes down to for me is two factors. There's the financial return on the property, and it depends how sophisticated you are with those numbers. There's on one side, very sophisticated people that look at return on equity and say, oh, well, I have all this equity, I could be earning a higher return in the market, I'm going to sell this. And you can't fault that person. It depends what you value. Other factor besides financial is just your lifestyle. We're called Good Life here for a reason. And, we want to make owning rental property easy so that it helps improve your life. And you don't have to focus on the, rental real estate, and it can actually be as passive as possible. And sometimes the property ends up owning you. It rents space in your head. Over some stretch of time, maybe you just have crazy repair after crazy repair, or maybe it's going pretty smoothly, but it's just a trigger for you. You don't like any, disruption with the property, or it can be hard if you used to live in it yourself. It can be an emotional hurdle to get over of how tenants might request maintenance or different things like that. And so it can be an adjustment. So those first 90 days, especially the first 6 months, is getting to know your manager, getting to know what it's like to be a landlord for the first time landlords. So I recommend hanging in there for that period for sure. But long term, if it's just not improving your life, then it might be a good time or a good reason to sell. Because it's funny, people don't realize that rental real estate or real estate in general can quickly own you rather than you own the property if you're not careful.
Yeah. Yeah. Like anything, I mean, it's an asset that's going to take a little bit of due diligence and care. You're always going to be, wondering what the condition is, if it's being taken care of. And again, that's what a good property management team should be doing for you. I know we do a great job with preventative maintenance. So we come in there and do a walkthrough, usually once, sometimes twice a year on the properties, which is great because it kind of gives you that, mid-cycle every single year to say, hey, is there anything we could be doing to, massage this asset and keep it, in that, range of quality that we want to keep it in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's also interesting, people that are older and looking at kind of their legacy with their kids. Like some people are like, I want to sell this so that my kids don't have to mess with it. And then there's people that don't do that. What do you see in that, area?
It's all over the place. I mean, some people have that like Warren Buffett style, mythology where it's like, I'm not giving my kids anything, right? And then, others are, I talked to one the other day and they're like, I'm probably gonna, we're gonna rent this until my kid can eventually take it over and we're just gonna give it to my kid because we've owned it for so long and he's never gonna find something in California, with this interest rate and at this price. So in this location. And then again, I mean, others are using a tax strategy. For instance, I spoke to one, and her husband's in really bad health. She doesn't think he's going to make it probably another 12 months, but she wants to hold on to that thing because she gets a stepped-up basis in taxes if she owns it while he passes, which is unfortunate, but it's still true. It's a tax planning objective for that particular owner.
Yeah, will you explain the stepped-up basis for people?
Yeah, so when you have an owner that passes away, you get a stepped up basis. So let's say you bought this property for $100,000, 20 years ago, and now it's worth $1 million today. If you sell that, you're going to have, approximately $900,000 gain. I mean, you can't even if you're married filing jointly living in it, you're still going to owe taxes on it because there's a limitation to that. But if an owner dies, they're going to get a stepped up basis to that $1 million, and you can turn around and sell it right away and not pay a dime in taxes. And that's the same theory of people holding on to it until they die, because when they pass it to their kids are going to get that stepped up basis as well, and then be able to sell that asset at its current market value and potentially pay nothing in capital gains. Yeah, I mean, jumping into property, it's not like buying a single stock, right? You're not going in and buying, Tesla at $150 and just sleeping every night. I mean, you're going to the bank, you're getting a loan, you're doing all these things. It's a big asset. You're, maintenance, repairs, all that stuff. You definitely want to take time to sit down with a lender, make sure you understand principal, interest, taxes, insurance, HOA, look at the budgets, and do all those reviews. And again, those are things that we help you with, whether you're buying a property, selling a property, doing a 1031 exchange. How does it work? When should I do it? All of those things we can sit down and give you, go over those numbers and make sure that it works for you right now. Because sometimes it doesn't. I just told one of our sellers just not too long ago, I was like, you should hold on to this asset. The HOA is having some budget issues. It'll clear up. If they have a great tenant and they're cash flowing, just hold on to it for another year and let's take a look at this next year and see if it works out better for you then.
It's more the qualitative analysis. It's like, okay, what would owning this do for my family, just like psychologically, like keeping this house? I think just getting really clear on what the numbers would look like if you rent it, and then, making a decision to, if you try it, say, okay, hey, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do this for 2-3 years, and then if it doesn't work out by then, I'll sell. Or I say, hey, I'll stay a landlord and I'll go into the 1031 play. If I decide to sell it, I'll go into another, building, and maybe it becomes a long-term kind of vehicle for wealth building for you. But definitely talk to experts on both sides, and make the decision that is best for you, not just on the quantitative side, but on peace of mind, the confidence in your life, the proud moment you might have, the less regret you might not feel later, because most people will regret selling like a property they like. Maybe not in 5 years or 10 years, but give it enough time. Everybody like wistfully looks off into the distance and goes, oh man, it would be great if I still own that place, right? So it's kind of this universal thing people will do. They'll sell because they feel like they need to, but you don't always have to. So consider the renting side first would be my advice.
All right, thanks everyone. Again, my name is Ryan Prazen, Director of Real Estate Investments here at Good Life Property Management. My contact information will be down below. It will be there. Reach out to me directly if you have any questions regarding buying or selling your property.
Hey, and if you're considering renting your property, give us a call. We'll put our number below. You can schedule a call with our team. There's no obligation. We're happy to run through the rent versus sell scenario with you, give you all the numbers free of charge. You make the decision. I'm Steve Welty. I'm the CEO of Good Life Property Management, and we're here to make owning rental property easy if that's what you decide to do. So thank you.